Hey, good morning from the dojo. It's Mike Magoo. So this is an interesting conundrum, and I'm going to throw out this strange pitch that you may or may not agree with. Maybe I could sell this a little or not, but I'd like to try and clarify what I think goes on the Democratic side and why it really jacked them up quite a bit and during Biden's term. And I see a real similarity between how immigration was handled in the crisis in 23, 22, 23, 24, and how Spirit Airlines was handled in that similar time, and how they both became such epic failures for the left, who are now getting blamed a lot for Spirit. Yes, one side of the faction is blaming oil prices, but if it's gas prices and oil prices, why aren't all the other airlines out of business? If Spirit's out because they spent $100 million on oil, how come nobody else is having that problem? Maybe because the others didn't spend $250 million on a headquarters a year or two ago with all new campus and facilities and hotel and offices and flight simulators and taking up 3 prestigious blocks in Fort Lauderdale, and now it's worthless and empty. That might, at least the fuel you could sell. Nobody wants that other thing. What happened really with Spirit is that this knee-jerk anti-Trump, post-Trump reaction, very similar to the immigration situation, is how they handled it. So JetBlue came across as this hostile takeover bully, even though JetBlue is one of the lower-cost carriers. They had grown from a low-cost carrier into a slightly higher-bracketed carrier, mostly because of service, because they had the TVs on their thing. There was an easier system. JetBlue was one of the first airlines that everyone liked after all the big ones dropped. And let's talk about airlines that went out of business. At least 20 or 30 in my lifetime, some very big ones. Let's also talk about the mergers. Many, many big ones, much bigger and much more onerous, and for the time, more money involved than the Spirit JetBlue merger. The difference was this attitude by the Democrats post-Trump, where he was just instilled. Everyone says, Trump's renting space in your head. I've never seen anything like it. Democrat heads have Trump condos and casinos and steak shops in there. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I didn't see this with Carter. I didn't see it with Reagan. I didn't see it with Obama, Bush, nothing. Never saw anything like the Trump phenomenon. And then the knee-jerk, polar opposite, mental weird reaction that the Biden regime did because it was 2 old men saying, I do it this way, and the other one, I do it this way. And it wrecked us. It's so bad. But it wrecked the Democrats more than anyone else because it just exposed them for this focus group led ninny party as opposed to it was almost like do the bad things firmly and with balls, which is what this Trump perception was, versus do the right thing like a milk a toast weasel and top that off with it not being the right thing. You can't fight back from that. You can't come out of that. You're not going to fix your numbers. You just destroy yourself politically for who knows how many decades to come. The major issue was this attitude was anti-rich, 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 help the poor, help the poor. So Liz Warren and them were in there saying Spirit, but Spirit didn't represent the poor, and JetBlue didn't represent the rich, but that's how they pitted it, as this weird thing. JetBlue was actually the only one pitted against the 3 majors, which were like Delta, American, and United. They're the big players. JetBlue is this middle type player. JetBlue was more or less taking over Spirit and saving Spirit. If they had the next option was what? To have the government bail out Spirit. Well, JetBlue was bailing out Spirit, but our poorest people, the representatives of our poorest people said, well, the poorest people won't be able to get a plane. They couldn't anyway. They're like, the kids won't get home from college. Was JetBlue not going to let kids get home from college? Would they have not figured out some routes and changed some pricing? It's all just, it was this idiocy, this knee-jerk, the rich want to hurt the poor, so JetBlue is the evil, hostile takeover of Spirit. They don't want Spirit and Frontier. Do you think Spirit and Frontier would have lasted 5 weeks? What was Frontier going to do to help Spirit? It was all that was going to do was give them extra routes, but their planes had engine problems. Engine problems are a real detriment in airlines. I hate to break it to you. You know, if I'm taking taxis, there's engine problems. I'm going to be so concerned. I'll get out, take a bus, take a train, walk, whatever. Engine problems in an airplane means dead. So, or no travel. So the whole idea of this whole, they're gonna, that Spirit was somehow this representative of the poor in the middle, and JetBlue is this representative of the hostile, evil oligarchs, was moronic. And Liz Warren still sits in Congress today and makes those same arguments knee-jerkly without reading, knee-jerkly, I just made up that word, without reading white papers, without really getting to the bottom, without listening to the CEOs, because it's all an antagonistic battle. They're never there to welcome them. And it's, so I'm not a Republican. I don't want to side with the other side of this. But when my side is in Congress doing this, I'm watching. I watched it the other day with Warsh. It's the same thing. 5 minutes of scripted, and what about that? And the guy goes, well, this, that, ding, 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 Wonder Woman, boom, 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 blocks them all. That's over. My 5 minutes is up. Moving on. Next guy. Same thing. Nothing new gets discussed. Nothing of interest gets solved. They learn nothing about this guy, even though he's a 40-year expert in whatever the heck he is he does. And they're a no expert. They read something and went in and said, this is the attack. Go. Lawyers. Unprepared lawyers. That's really what they've become. And they just go in and they rabble and they blah, and they go up against these CEOs who are not morons. They're not schmucks. They're not Congress people with 10% approval. They're billionaires who go to work for 20 hours a day to build these behemoth companies. It's all they care about. They sacrifice their families. They throw millions of people under the bus. They raise millions of people up too. It's a whole complicated thing. One cock-blocking Congress ninny doesn't help. And when they're completely out of touch with what really goes on, and it's proven 2 years later when 17,000 jobs are lost and the company goes under and we ask the government to bail them out, and you start talking about all these other reasons, come back to the original reason. A couple of moronic Congress people cock-blocked the crap out of them, made the Department of Justice come down hard on JetBlue, as though JetBlue was some hostile, evil company who was going to wipe out low-cost travel for everyone. It's just nonsense. And so let's move that to immigration. How does that work? I know Democrats hate, and I'm a Democrat, hate when I say it was Biden or it was Biden. It wasn't Biden. It was this exact same mentality that Trump closed down the border, made these intense, onerous rules and mandates, and sent ICE loose. Every 5 presidents used ICE. So ICE is not a Trump phenomenon. That's been going on forever. Obama did more, just quietly. Democrats deport quietly. Republicans deport loudly. That's how you support that's what your base wants to hear. But Democrat base doesn't want to hear about deportations, but they don't want 15,000 Haitians in their town either, even though they pretend they may want to when some focus group comes and asks about it. But then you'll catch them online with the placards going, hey, our schools, blah, blah, blah. Same shit. Don't buy into all this nonsense. It's manipulation. That's what it all is. So the immigration point was that Trump had very onerous, nasty things. But instead of Biden coming in and very clearly trying to deal with it, it was wipe out all of everything that Trump did. So if he said, we lock it down, we were like, now we're amnesty, now we're free. But it was never clear. It was never made completely clear. And there were a lot of rumors. So basically, 1 million or more rushed the border very quick. They called it the surge. It was a surge of the border. Okay, it wasn't migrants attacking the border. It was a surge of immigration, where these people from bad countries with a lot of hassles going on, Haiti, and Cuba and Venezuela. There was an actual policy, the CHNV or whatever policy for Cuba, Haiti, I think it was Venezuela, and maybe Nicaragua. I can't remember the other one. And that more or less allowed more of them to sort of come in very quickly under what was called humanitarian parole. So the people who are already here were granted a certain amnesty and allowed, if that one was called TPS or something like that, and that you could stay. But the more and more that came, it was like, we'll let them in, we'll sort it out after. Too late. It was too late. They let them in, said we'll sort it out after, and they ended up in different places. So 16,000 Somalis end up in Minnesota. Why? There was a Somali culture in Minnesota already. We understand that. I'm not saying that they destroyed the neighborhood. It's not they're eating the dogs. But you have to accept that you took a neighborhood with 16,000 people, put another 16,000 different cultural ones in. If you take 16,000 people and put 60 people in, it's going to affect the school district. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to affect the schools. It's going to affect infrastructure. Just adding 60 families. But you add 16,000 people? You've now upended an entire piece of the country, and it's going to be political upheaval, and there's going to be financial upheaval. We're great people in America, so you know what we do? We pull it together. We assimilate. They end up moving in. We get them into the schools. We do this and that. There's a bunch of political hay made about it, but we normally get the job done. But if you ask the left, you would think that we're just evil scumbags who never take anyone. And if you ask the right, you'll think we are open-bordered freak show where everybody who wants to come in wearing a banana suit can. No, neither of those is true. But the problem is, Trump did something very rigid. So instead of Biden going, okay, let's undo that knot and make normal knots, they went, cut it off! They cut his shit off, opened it back up, and for about a week we had a hell show, a hellscape of people just coming in because they're humans and we treated them like humans. So we didn't kick people out, we didn't do that. But you had to figure out who's a criminal, who's not a criminal. And then they tweaked the law. This is where you got to understand that the Biden and Trump are not so different, and the Republicans and them are not different at all. It's two wings of the same bird. They use the laws on the book, which were basically that humanitarian amnesty type law, because you don't want to send people back to war-torn, ravaged countries where they're going to get killed or imprisoned in 5 seconds. That's not who we are. We're a refugee country. We came here the same way. We have most of our country came here from war-torn shitholes to find a new place in the new world with opportunity. So we're not supposed to cut that off. It's in our Constitution. That's part of us. That's a theory of our country. That's a major basis. But you can't say, here's the law. The law is that in a humanitarian situation like that, on a case-by-case basis, we'll decide who comes in, who's not. We don't. It's not a wholesale program. This is, okay, you're going to get killed if you go back because you wrote a book and spoke out against the czar. So we know you can't go back. We don't want to send you to another country with, okay, so you're going to stay here and be an American, and you have a lot of money, so we like you. However, when you have 15,000 poor people, we don't love them so much. So you're supposed to give amnesty one at a time. You can't give it to 15,000 at once and say, oh, you're good because you're all going to go home and get killed. That's not how the law was written. That's not what it is. So to use that law that way opened up the Democrats to a ton of scrutiny. In the same way Trump's getting a ton of scrutiny for using executive order to go into Iran. And Obama used it to go into Libya. There's wrong and there's wrong. And the politics are going to call it. And they're going to fight about it. And they're going to go over it. But you can't then, well, you can. You can do whatever you can get away with. But what Biden did, he didn't get away with, and it destroyed the Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, you don't understand, it's because you don't want to hear the truth because they're not going to report the truth. But the truth is we let too many people in. They use the amnesty laws to sort of force assimilate them into pockets of the country, and those pockets of the country all had political bonfires start because of it, which wrecked the Democrats politically. Now, if the Dems can't understand that, I don't need to be Chris Saliza or Chuck Todd or anybody else to know this. This is very obvious. And I know the backstory because I study this shit. But Spirit Airlines had to go because we didn't let the next one up the chain absorb them, support it, take it over, and do the right thing, sort of, even though it's not. But that's capitalism. It's not nice. What did I say? It was in, what's it in? Tommy Boy, he's like, hey, sometimes you got to beat a company with a shovel and take over its stuff. That's the nature of the wild. It's capitalism. So if that company couldn't make it because they blew all their money on a headquarters and, mismanaging their planes and being a low-cost carrier ain't no easy thing. That's why there aren't very many of them. So JetBlue is a much better managed company, so they went to take over. But of course, the politics had to come in and say, no, Spirit is the airline of the poor people. No, it's not. It never pitched itself that way. And now, Spirit's been around for 34 years. So in the last 5 years or so, since COVID at least, the entire airline industry is completely different now. Every airline has a $125 flight. Economy class. But what happens after? Then the bag fee, then the seat fee, then the this fee, then the that fee, and your $125 flight is $400. And then you go to Spirit, and you know how much the flight comes out to? $325 or $350. Is that really such a big difference than the $400 from American? And if you had your choice between American for $400 or Spirit for $350, most people take American. Because they're like, oh, I take Spirit. It's going to be like a little shit seat. And, they're going to be late. Probably get can't. Who knows? But the perception was never that great. This was a Liz Warren, Department of Justice, Biden, Democrat, whack jobby thing. And I wish I could impress upon my friends on the left that this happened. And it does happen. And it's not a crime. And it's not mean. And it doesn't mean I'm a hater. It means if you keep doing this and don't understand and learn from it, we keep losing. And now we're losing in retrospect. The spirit thing we're getting blamed for in retrospect. We're not even in power. We have a 34% approval rating, not in power. Trump has a 33% approval rating, and he started a war and is fucking putting us in a jackpot everywhere. Can you not understand those numbers? Why do you listen to Kornacki with his polls every day? Why do you listen to Enton with his moronic lying polls every day? I'm telling you the numbers of approval. They should tell you that no one likes any of them. No one likes Congress. 10% approval. No one likes Republicans. No one likes the Dem. It's just these party animals who are involved. Everybody else is like, what is going on? So I'm telling you, if you're on the left, if you're a Democrat, start accepting some of the fuck-ups of the last 5 to 10 years. Own them, embrace them, absorb them, understand them, process them, and then move on without doing them again. But instead, all the left is a brain fog of orange man bad. That's all it's become. It's this sissy, womanly, estrogen-filled, a la fueled, strange party. It doesn't represent my mom's people or my grandma's or my grandfather's or mine or my uncles. It's not the Democrat. I think that they think, yes, they're the party that will expand Medicaid. So I think they're the better party right now. They're the one looking to give health care. They're the one looking to do good for people. They're not going to get the opportunity because they don't tell the truth anymore. And their lies are kind of like, they're just not as good liars. You know, sometimes you have to fight lies with the truth, not other lies. But the Dems are so caught up in their own bullshit that they don't know what's the truth. They don't know what the party line is. They don't have 3 points of let's attack with this and all stay on a message. They don't have any of that. It's just a broken party of all kinds of factions and agendas and different things that people are interested in. Whereas the Republicans just rally around whatever bullshit points the committee member chairs come up with, whatever the top says, they send out the thing and everyone goes, hey, immigration. Dems don't want to talk about immigration. Why? Because they fucked it. And now they don't want to admit they fucked it. So rather than admit it and move on and fix it, they just deny it. Just deny. This is our new thing. That doesn't work for Democrats. Denial works for Republicans because they're religious nuts and they can blame everything on religion or God or whatever the case may be. They come up with some faith-based garbage. Well, on the left, we deal in reality. We don't have the men in the sky to handle things. We have to come up with it, which means we have to be truthful and rational and intelligent and make valid arguments. Not Liz Warren, not Maxine Waters, not even Bernie anymore. Bernie's a great messenger. He tells the message. He doesn't have a solution. None. He doesn't have a solution. That's the problem. Everybody who reps the poor doesn't have any solutions except attack the rich. Attack the rich isn't a solution in a capitalist country because if they leave, they take the tax base with them. And now that you have the internet and Zoom and all that, they could leave anytime, anywhere, and in fact have every incentive to do so. Before they had to stay. Their family was there. It was important. They couldn't work. They had a business. Now they go where the hell they want. They can Zoom in every morning from Cambodia. What difference does it make? They don't care. They have the money. They only have to be around for meetings, and you get meetings wherever you want. These guys can private jet their meetings. But Liz Warren's not going to go after their private jet. She's going to say, Spirit. You should have Spirit. They should have private jets. If they take Spirit away from you, you'll never get to travel. Well, then you got bigger systemic problems, lady. How about the trains? How about all the tracks we have in this country? Where's our high-speed rail? Why is Mexico making beautiful high-speed rail? Why is Asia making beautiful high-speed rail? Why do we have a bunch of dilapidated tracks with graffiti-strewn freight trains stranded on them? The bigger problems. But no, we're going to stand there and go, Spirit is what the American poor needs. You see how stupid it sounds? That's what they literally did. This was the literal argument. Kids won't get home from college without Spirit. Well, I took People Express to Maine my first time. People Express. You know how much it was from New York to Maine? $35. You know how ridiculously insane it was at the time? You know how everyone knew People Express was not going to last longer than 6 months? It was like a radio station going, come commercial-free summer. Well, you know, at the end of the summer, the commercials are coming. Well, same thing with that airline, and it didn't last but a month. You know what I'm saying? This goes on and on and on. It's the same thing with People Express is going to be the airline for the people that gets us go. Yeah, well, who could pay for that? You can't do $35 flights. The gas for one person costs more than that, even in the 70s. Hate to break it to you. We had oil embargoes then. We had a whole big. We didn't need a hurricane to have gas lines around the block. It was all political. I really wish I could impress upon my own team that we have to own our mistakes. And Biden made a ton of mistakes. And the reason Democrats make mistakes now are almost universally because they have Trump in their head. And it's embarrassing, it's boring, it's decimated the party, it's created a whole new wave of independence, it's created a whole new wave of right-leaning centrists. It's pushed a lot of left centrists to become right centrists because of the woke, whack-jobby bullshit. You know, I'm sorry, I'm a Democrat. Liz Warren does not represent me, and she hasn't in 20 years. Biden doesn't represent me. Newsom doesn't represent me. None of these clauses. Tallarico a little bit. I can pick and choose from him. Buttigieg I can pick and choose from. So maybe Newsom I can pick and choose from, but not anymore. He's another one warped. Another one so Trump-brained you can't even rationalize with these people. It's just crazy. It's crazy. What we need are some non-crazy people, but Congress doesn't attract those kind of people. Those kind of people are staying in the private sector. There's no reason. Congress used to be a lucrative thing to go do. Now it's for people who like, complete wingnuts who go there because there's wingnuts there, and wingnuts work for wingnuts. Good people work for good people. Wingnuts work for wingnuts. If wingnuts are in charge, they're going to hire wingnuts. So you get Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel and all these ding dugs. But who did Biden hire? And how do we, Democrats, how many more times do I have to hire Maxine Waters? She's going to be 88. She's running again. She's running the finance committee, doesn't know anything about Bitcoin or crypto or anything. How long do I have to put my head in the sand and go, no, this doesn't embarrass me. This is wonderful. This is great. My party or die. No, it's over. I did my best. You haven't even tried to come across to reality. So I can't help anymore. I lose friends. I lose family. It's not, but I mean, my country, I don't have much time left. I'm trying to make it better for my kid. My kid doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know who to believe, but he knows he's supposed to believe the blue team because that's where we sort of came from. And he knows most of the red team are cuckoo in the head. But he's understanding now, Dad, if the blue team is the good team, why are they so cuckoo in the head too? And I go, I don't know, Nick, but if we say it, good luck. Good luck having friends or a life. So meet some independents or just be anti-politics. And that's why now everyone is becoming anti-politics. Because we want to have friends again. We want to go out again. We want to. I told you this. There's a dating thing I got for free. I'm looking at the dating profiles, and every person. First of all, every woman has retouched AI photos, and then says, "Use real photos. Don't be a fake." I'm like, well, all your photos. That's not your skin, lady. See that last picture where your skin looks like a shark? And that's you. These other pictures look like obviously with little noses on them, little hearts, AI bullshit. Come on, people. But the issue is that these, we're choosing our life on politics. It's whack. Politics is just supposed to be a small part of selecting our government. That's democracy. We select representatives who try to legislate to bring benefits back to us. So we have a state-by-state sort of competition to send people to bring back as much as they can for us. That's why you want the best and the brightest who make the best arguments. All that's gone. Citizens United killed all that. Money killed all that. The press is gone. It's not independent anymore. Each is carved up by editorial needs and by advertisers and whatever they have to do to maintain their bottom line. They're all public companies. So they all have stock and shareholders to respond and answer to. It's nothing about Edward R. Murrow or the truth or sanctity of journalism anymore. There's none of that. There's no real First Amendment-y thing anymore because no one knows what's true and what's not true anymore anyway. So you can say whatever you want. That's always been the rule, but you always assume that there was some sort of higher level acting in journalism, and that's long gone. No, 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 that doesn't happen anymore. So I wish I could tell you. Sometimes I should make a video about how different things were, but sometimes they were the same. I hear during the Nixon era they were pretty similar. There was a lot of the same kind of shenanigans going on. Pre-Reagan, we warned you about all this, what was coming, and don't say, a bunch of punk rockers and go back, listen to your noise music. We'll go over here and create Taylor Swift. All right, peace out, everybody. Have a great day. Love you. Right. So in my day, the Democrats were Led Zeppelin. Now they're Taylor Swift. There you go. Peace out. Have a great day.